What is going on, guys? DBG here, and today we are going to be talking about why you never need to spend money on MyTEAM. And this isn't going to be the start. This is going to be through the whole year. I'm telling you right now, you do not need to spend too much money or too much time to be fine in MyTEAM. Does spending money or spending time put you at an advantage in the game? Yes. Of course it does. Like, grinding any game. Grinding, heck, if you grind, I don't know, any game that I can think of, heck, even if it's an RPG single-player game, the more you play the game, the more decked out your character is going to be. The more you grind a game, the better. But the thing about MyTEAM is that, I will say this, to be fair, FIFA's gone like this. FIFA wasn't like this in the past, but you can grind a really good FIFA team. We've seen my FIFA team, no money spent, where I have like Messi, have Mbappe, things like that. It just takes longer. For me, pay to win, I don't believe is a thing. Pay to win just fast tracks you to an advantage. It means, like, obviously if you don't have a bunch of time, you do have an advantage. But this is why you don't need to. You don't need to have fun. You don't need to spend a whole bunch of money on the game. And I'm going to explain why. Because that's the biggest common misconception, is that if you don't spend money on MyTEAM, you don't have any chance. And then people obviously start making no money spent series, no money spent squads, and they were dominating. And then the narrative became, oh, you have to spend all your time on the game if you're not spending money. And that's just simply not true either. Like, I did it last year in NBA 2K20. You guys all said I sucked at the game. I booted up at 8 a.m. Irish time, a brand new account with nothing on the account. Literally nothing on the account. And 12 hours later, I had built an entire squad, had 20k MT in the bank, and was 11-0 in Unlimited. Was about to complete Unlimited in 12 hours from scratch. So, like, it's very doable. Again, if you look at things like even like FIFA, Matt HD Gamer built a team in a week. I could very easily build a team. Today is the 7th. The game comes out in 2 days if you're like me and you're flying to New Zealand. I could very easily start a new account right now and build a competitive squad by 2K22. Like, that's the thing with MyTEAM. So I'm going to explain the reasons why. Because it's enough of me just telling you guys that you can do it, but let me explain the reasons why you can. So first of all, I'm just going to say this right now. You are never going to gain MT by just playing the unlimited game mode. That game mode is designed, the way it's currently designed, it is designed for you so that you will lose MT on pretty much every game. It's not as bad at the start of the year. You gain a little bit of MT at the start of the year because obviously you're using lower rated players, their contracts don't cost as much. But the way it is at the end of the year, it's actually designed so that you lose coins every game you play, which is ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. Like, it's the only mode that you're guaranteed to lose MT. You're guaranteed to lose MT for nothing back. Like, for example, if you play MyTEAM Limited, yeah, you lose MT for every game you play. But at the same time, you can get prizes. Like, I'm pretty sure I got 40k off a limited pack at one stage. A half badge, they were gold dust at one stage. Diamond contract packs, which you can get. Triple Threat Online was a fun mode. I don't see how that's gonna. This could be a good way to earn MT. It all depends. But it is crazy. They made it not only harder to get to the top board, but they also made it so that you get less ball drops at the top board. Just pure stupidity from 2K. Pure stupidity. But now I'm going to explain how you can get a bunch of MT. This mode right here, through like 10 games, is your friend. You can grind this game mode mindlessly. And one thing 2K are really good for are locker code packs. Like, 2K will consistently, at least once a week, give a locker code pack out. When 2K, I would say they give about 2,000 MT worth of locker codes every week. You can get a bunch of locker codes like that. You can also always find budget options. So, let's even look at the very start of the year. The very start of the year. Giannis Antetokounmpo was super expensive. Most people ran him a power forward. But at the same time, he was 150k or 100k day one. This guy was 5k day one. They did the same thing on day one. You will always just find these alternatives. If you even look at premium sets, the best point guard in the game at the start of the game was Maurice Cheeks. Because, yeah, he couldn't dunk like D-Rose, but he had goal clamps, 96 lateral quickness, and go quick first step. He was the best point guard in the game. Early on in the game, you're going to find these gems. These gems always exist. Yeah, most of these cards sucked. Most of these cards really sucked. But a lot of them were good, or a good few of them were good. A good few of these guys were usable. And then even like things like playoff stoppers, none of these guys were any good. But once we got the clutch, the first Friday promo, you had Tony Kukoc, who was like, he was 2000 MT when he came out. 84 3-ball, 6'10", he was a beast. Ray Allen was about 10k MT, he was a beast. Trevor Ariza was discard value. Trevor Ariza was a god in this game. Like, there are always really good budget options, and especially at the end of the year, the better cards, until they come out with some stupidly good cards, the budget cards are always going to be able to compete. But what about when you go later on in the year? There's always going to be budget guys. So as you go through the year, especially at the very start, guys like Boris Diaw, when he came out, he was arguably a top. Do I even own him? Flash Boris Diaw was arguably like a top 7 card in the game when he came out, and he was 4000 MT, like literally 4k. It was ridiculous how cheap he was. Then as we went on the middle of the year, Nick Anderson. The only time where you're really, what I will say is that at the start of the year, budget guys are always good enough to compete and compete at any sort of decent level. The whole thing is that you have to be good at the game. Like, if you're losing it at the start or at the end of my team, it's because you suck. Obviously, if you're using troll squads and you have bronzes on your squad and you're losing in August, then fair enough. But if you're like 2-10 in August, you're bad. Or if you're 2-10 at the start of the year, you just haven't figured out the game yet. But the thing is that at the start of the year, budget cards are really good. There is that middle stage in the year where a lot of people say, and I fully agree with them, that you can't use the real budget cards anymore in that middle stage. There's a stage from like December to probably like February where they come out with some really OP pink diamonds and galaxy opals, but yet they're still putting sapphire cards in packs, and those sapphires are just going to get eaten alive. And some of the rubies, even the amethysts, are going to get eaten alive by those galaxy opals. And that is the one stage where people argue, but that's the stage you have to put money into the game. Because everyone knows at the end of the year, when the Simvu Lars of the world are out in the Sean Bradleys, that you don't need to spend money on the game. Everyone knows that at the start of the year, well, most people know at the start of the year, having money in the game really doesn't matter. Like, again, Gary Payton was the most expensive point guard in the game. He was nothing on Mo Cheeks. There's always going to be these god tier budget options. But the middle of the year, if you are smart with your MT and you play the game from the start, you are going to have enough MT built up so that you can compete in the middle of the year. For example, you may get absolutely destroyed by a Flash Jimmy Butler in January. You may get destroyed by the Flash Jimmy Butler in January, who's 300,000 MT. If you are using a Nick Anderson who costs 5k MT. But what if you go to 30k MT and you buy a Rudy Fernandez? Or you go and buy a card who previously was around 100k MT, like a Eddie Jones. Suddenly you're competing. Suddenly you're competing with a little bit more MT. It's the middle period where your 30, 40k MT squads struggle. But if you've been playing enough of the game, you should have accumulated about at least 250k for a squad. And during that middle period, a 250k squad's always going to be able to compete. It always is. And then there's a time every year. It's around the time when Spotlight Sims come out where everything kind of changes. Like, once Spotlight Sims come out, it is really a case of just playing the game a little bit. Like, these guys right here. If you could use Dom Buse up until, like, he came out like the 1st of March or something when Spotlight Sims came out. If you use Dom Buse up until May, you were fine. 2 hours in a game for a card you can use till May. And then May is really when the budget guys become gods. Like, these things right here. And realistically, the ones you need to do Dom Buse, do Wicks. And you could have done Buggy. That was 6 hours of playing the game for 3 guys that could have been in your squad for a month and been good players. And then always throughout the year, 2K are going to give out these good locker codes. And always save your stuff for locker codes. Like, if you are going through these right here, if you are going through all your agenda, season progress, like, if you, all of these packs, you're getting probably at least 2,000 MT out of. These packs right here, these like slasher packs and rim protector packs, like if you get a range, if you get a clamps or something, throw them on, wait until like October, November, hold on to them till then, throw them on the market, you're making big profit. Like, the only real way you can have a scrub team if you play the game, and I'm not even saying play the game a lot, play the game somewhat consistently. Like, if you play the game 4 hours a week, let's just say 4 hours a week playing the game, and you don't have a mediocre team, that's on you. That's not on 2K. Like, 2K have likely... The only way you're losing MT is if you're doing dumb things like buying holo cards, spending all your MT on high-graded cards. And, like, realistically, even at the very start of the game, you're gonna have a full Ruby squad. Probably in 5 hours of playing, you're gonna have a full Ruby squad, lads. We cannot underestimate how good a full Ruby squad's gonna be on day one. It's gonna be insane. It's gonna be absolutely insane, the full Ruby squad. So that's you sorted day one. And heck, if this is your full Ruby squad, you've got 5 more players. You sell your 5 most expensive players in your starter pack, you're suddenly on 7, 8k MT. You play a bit of triple threat offline, build up 10k MT, and then you're starting getting the ball rolling for the year. As long as you keep a little bit of a safety net, you're good. You're good. And the main point of this video is that you don't need, right now, you do not need, like my best team, you don't need Kareem. You don't necessarily need like Ferry. You don't need the Kareems of the world, the LeBrons of the world, the invincible Kobes of the world at any stage. Obviously, whatever, the prices are cheaper now. But like we all know, when Invincible Kobe came out, he was 4 million MT. There was never a situation where you needed Invincible Kobe. Realistically, there was never, he was great. You never needed him. You never needed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Yes, of course. If you really want to use some of the biggest names in NBA history, it's tough. It is really tough doing that without spending all your time or all your money. But 2K do a really good job of making these like unknown players. They're making these unknown players gods. Like, again, there's a reason why Danny Ferry's so iconic. There's a reason why Terry Dishinger is so iconic. There's a reason why so many people are so iconic in 2K. That's because 2K always just juice up stats for random budget players. But there will always be a budget alternative. Not only that, like, and you're always going to be able to afford budget alternatives. Because these 1,000, if you spend 1,000 MT for Ruby, you're never going to lose your MT. Trust me, you're never going to do it. And really, if your goal in my team is to create a squad of all the best versions of your favorite ever players, yeah, you're probably going to need to play. You're probably going to need to put in money. I'm going to be the first one to say that. Because, like, again, I've spent countless hours playing this game mode, and I can't do that. And I've never been able to do that in 2K. If your goal is to just use all your favorite players, then you can do that. Because 2K do a great job of putting in slightly lesser versions. For example, instead of getting GOAT MJ, get Team USA MJ. And there's always going to be those tactical downgrade plays, especially at the end of the year. But if your goal is to just be able to be competitive, to be able to make a team that you feel like you have a chance against almost anybody, that you feel like you can go into online and have a chance every game you play. Obviously, there are situations where you're playing if you're playing someone's better than you and you get destroyed. It's probably not necessarily the team's fault. But 2K have never, I don't think 2K have ever made a situation where a budget squad is more than 15 points of an advantage over a terrible squad, or of a disadvantage over the best squad in the game. And do you have to be slightly better at the game to be really competitive with a budget squad? Yes. If you are not great at the game and you have the best team in the game, can you be competitive just because of your squad as well? Yes. But the biggest thing is just, I don't want to say get good, but the biggest deciding factor of whether a player wins or loses in my team is if they're good or not. Like, a good player with a bad team is going to beat a bad player with a good team. 99 times out of 100. especially if the bad player or the good player with a bad team has his team structured correctly. There's always going to be a budget option. There's always going to be a way of structuring a team with, by my famous phrase, tactically downgrading players very slightly, or tactically downgrading players, going from 100k player to a 9k player, but yet the 9k player is going to play 90% as good as the 100k player. It happens every single year. And lads, I strongly advise you, if you guys are interested in playing my team, if you guys like Ultimate Team game modes, if you guys are like big fans of creating teams, if you're a FIFA Ultimate Team fan, and I know maybe you spend money on FIFA and you don't want to spend money on 2K, maybe you're in school, you're only allowed to play the game on weekends and you don't have too much time to play the game, but you're interested in it, but you don't have the money. And I would hope, again, I always say it, I don't believe anyone under the age of 18 should be allowed to spend money on this game because I personally believe it's gambling. But at the same time, I would strongly hope that you guys, if you are in that, I'm either preaching, like right now, I'm either preaching to the choir, the people that already know this, or if there is any new viewers, I would strongly advise you guys to subscribe to this channel. Or not even subscribe to this channel. I don't even care about the subscriber numbers, just bookmark the channel. Because if there is anything you need in terms of being successful without spending money, going to a no money spent series is not going to do that. Because within 3 weeks, experienced players will have made a really good squad in their no money spent account. If you want to learn about the ins and outs of budget players and why they're good, this is the place for you. So anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.